Cars are designed for all different types of purposes. SUVs are for people who like to sit up high and to have a commanding view of the road ahead, while estate cars are for people who like to bring a lot of stuff with them for the ride. Cars like this, the Morgan Super 3, which is designed for people who genuinely just like to have fun when they're driving. It's a rather compromised, it's a rather open to the elements sports car with one engine up front, 2 seats in the middle, and 3 wheels in total. But can you live with this kind of car, and what's it like to drive? Well, in this video, that's what we're going to be finding out. Naturally, the Morgan Super 3 looks, well, not a lot like anything else you'll find on the road today. It's got all of the hallmark features of a true Morgan 3-wheeler with, naturally, 3 wheels. But you'll find now that the engine is actually inboard of the vehicle rather than outboard as it would have been on the older 3-wheeler. And that gives it a slightly more car-like look than it was before. Of course, there are still loads of excellent touches like these spot lamps at the front and the little fly screens, which do help out a little bit to put the wind over the top of your head, but realistically feel a little bit more for show than they are for practicality. As you might expect, there's not an awful lot to explore within the interior of the Morgan Super 3. Because it's also exposed, everything has been finished in some hard-wearing materials that aren't going to be too bothered if they get wet. And let's be honest, if you're driving in the UK, things are going to get wet. But there are some creature comforts to find here and there. I've got heated seats down the bottom. I've also got a working heater. I've got some USB sockets so I can charge my phone when I'm on the move. So there are some functions in there to make this car a little bit more pleasant than you'd expect for a car with no windscreen and doors. But you also have some digital dials up front for displaying your speed and for aspects such as your fuel economy and your odometer. You've also got these handy toggle switches for the horn and for your emergency lighting, and they've got a nice solid feel to them, as if you're on a boat or on an aircraft. Overall, it's all built to last, and it does feel like it can put up with a bit of a beating, and because it's all outside, it is going to have to deal with that. At the rear, there is a small storage area underneath the rear clamshell, which opens up actually quite easily. Underneath there, you'll find 2 separate channels which you could probably stuff in some soft weekend bags or aspects such as shoes or your gloves or some of your equipment that you've been wearing while you're driving the Super 3. Of course, it's not going to compare to a proper boot in a normal car, but at least you can put some stuff outside and keep it locked away. Actually, one of the most obvious aspects of the Super 3 experience is the lack of any roof. That's why I'm wearing a lid today, because even though you have these little fly screens ahead of you, most of the wind is being channeled directly into your head. And when I've been on the motorway for some time today, I feel like a motorcycle helmet is a good place to start. But what about the rest of the experience? Well, up front we've got a 1.5 litre Ford-sourced engine, but it's naturally aspirated. And that means it develops 118 brake horsepower, which might not sound like a lot, but given that this car weighs less than a tonne, it's enough to get the Super 3 up to 60 miles an hour in about 7 seconds. But this car isn't about those outright performance figures or the way it accelerates. It's all about the experience. The experience in the Super 3 is, well, like nothing else you're going to get from any car on sale today. Naturally, your exposure to the elements is what dominates the whole feeling of driving this car, but elsewhere there are some really lovely touches. The steering has some nice weight to it, and it gives you a great sense of what those huge front wheels are doing. But you do come up against potholes in a completely new manner. In a standard car, you might go between the front axles to try and avoid it. In this car, if you do that, you end up smacking into the pothole with that single rear wheel, and it does bounce you up and down. This definitely isn't a car for urban dwellers thinking of a sunny runabout, because it really doesn't suit around town driving. Gather some speed, and that's when the Super 3 feels far more comfortable. What's more, you can continue driving and you're still doing around 42 mpg, so there's not too many downsides economy wise. You can add 15 quid of fuel and it'll bring you half a tank, and that's what I love about the Super 3 experience. It's all very light and it's actually quite efficient and economical in a modern sense. I've got digital dials, but everything else about it feels quite old school, and there are a couple of tweaks and quirks to get over. The indicators, for instance, don't self-cancel, so you do have to do that intentionally to yourself, and the horn isn't in the centre of the steering wheel, it's on a little rocker switch in the middle of the dashboard. But I've got loads of other comfort focus features. I've got heated seats, and I've even got a heater. All right, it doesn't work that well, but it's nice to give the impression of heat by turning it on. Overall, it's just an experience which feels like it's meant to be fun. This whole car is about saying you're going to have a good time, get behind the steering wheel and go out and enjoy yourself, and that's something to be really cherished in this day and age. The Morgan Super 3 is not going to be for everyone. It doesn't have a windscreen, it doesn't have any doors, and during the depths of winter it's going to feel rather exposed, not the sort of car that you're going to lean towards to have a comfortable trip to work. But on those sunny days and on those brighter occasions, this is a car that can inject some real fun into your everyday driving. While it might not be for everyone, certainly if you are looking to stand out from the crowd, there are a few better ways to do it than with the Morgan Super 3. Thank you for watching this Motors new car review on the Morgan Super 3. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and let us know in the comments section if you would choose this car. Do you think it's a little bit exposed to the elements, or do you think you could put up with a roofless, windscreenless way of getting about? And since you're here, please remember to subscribe to the Motors YouTube channel. And if you'd like to see other videos just like this one, then hit that bell icon. You'll get a notification each time we upload a new review.